All right, very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here. Another edition of Defo and 5. Jeff DeForest and a very cheery Mike Lubie. It's not usually, this festive so early in the morning. Usually the first couple of words that we exchange, I say, "Hey, Lubie, how you doing?" And he goes, "How do you think I'm doing? I'm working," which I always appreciate. Dedicated. It's great. I found out something about myself yesterday, Lubie. I don't know. Did you watch any of the college baseball World Series? Last night. All right, it was blowout city, and almost right from the start. Second inning on, it was pretty much obvious that them Gators just didn't have it. And LSU, which I found myself rooting for, and this is where I really had a moment, epiphany, self discovery. I don't know what you want to call it, but I've been proclaiming for the last several years that I've softened my stance about the Florida Gators. That I don't despise them as much as I used to, that I respect the level of achievement that they've had over the many, many years. And then I watched last night's game and I could not get enough of it. Could not get enough. It didn't matter when it was 6-2. It didn't matter when it was 10-2. It didn't matter when it was 14-2. I wanted to see 18, 20, 30. I wanted more home runs even in the ninth inning. And I was hoping they would bring that guy Paul Skeens in to pitch the ninth inning, even though it didn't make any sense at that point, obviously, to have this number one stud who's going to be the first or second guy picked in a Major League Baseball draft. He was named the MVP of the World Series, even though could have easily given the award to any number of other guys on that LSU team, including Dylan Cruz, who most people figure, I guess the consensus is that Cruz will be the first choice, a position player that hit over 420 during his final year in college. I don't know if he's a senior. I'm not sure exactly what his class status is, but he's been there for at least a couple of seasons. Do you have to still stay in college baseball for 3 years if you sign with a college team? Is that still some stipulation that?
Sophomore, you can leave before your sophomore year, or you have to then stay. So it's some fakakta rule where you have to stay. If you stay after your freshman year, you then have to stay through your junior year.
Okay. All right. Well, whatever he is, he's going to go either number one or number two. It's either going to be Skeens or, unless, some bizarre circumstances happen. Remember, I forget who was like the number one stud guy when, and was it the Houston Astros that had the number one pick and they took Phil Nevin? Phil Nevin was kind of like, what? Phil Nevin? What are you talking about? Everybody was talking about some other guy, but I guess they didn't want to spend a ton of money and sign him. I think now with slotting in Major League Baseball, it's kind of a given. It's more like the NFL, where you don't negotiate with a guy. You go ahead and give him whatever the slot demands, and the number one pick demands somewhere or commands somewhere around $9 million. But I had reason to have acrimony with Gator fans over the years. I know I was agitating them as much as I could, right, with the farm animal sounds and all of that stuff. And it would drive them crazy because it was a lot like talking to MAGA Republicans when I used to do sports talk shows. And this was at the height of the University of Miami and Gator football rivalry. This goes all the way back to Howard Schnellenberger. That's why we would have done anything back then to preserve the series. We were willing to go to Gainesville 3 times out of 4 games and play the other one in Orlando in a neutral site. We were willing to sacrifice virtually everything, all of our dignity, to keep that series intact. Howard thought it was very important that the University of Miami play the Florida Gators every year. He was big about these in-state rivalries. They already had the game every year penciled in with, I guess it was etched in ink. It was indelibly etched in ink with the Florida State Seminoles, which, the Seminoles, are they mandated by some kind of state legislation that they have to play the Canes? I don't think so,
No,
Libby. They
Gators.
are?
The Gators. There's like some state thing which I think is insane that the Gators and FSU have to play. So that's why you have to.
Okay. Well, 2 big state schools, right? So,
Mhm.
it makes some sense if the state's going to put up all this money. They want to see these two guys, these two cats exchange blows on a football field.
Yes.
But when they came up with this, I guess if you look at it, in hindsight, and you're talking 35 years ago or whatever it was, that, it makes some sense. The argument that the Gators waged that, well, we have that SEC schedule, so we can't afford to play really good teams in the out of conference schedule. And so that was one of the reasons they wanted to drop Miami. The reason they wanted to drop Miami was beating them. That was the problem.
Yes.
So whether it was the Gator flop, the Charlie Pelgrants, Steve Spurrier with the fun and gun, and everybody's wide open, and he's up 57-3, still throwing the ball down the field. Hey, Jesse, throw another bomb. Okay, great. Jesse Palmer, by the way, I mean, hosting the Bachelorette, that is, in a million years, would you have ever made that equation, right? That some former Gator quarterback would end up, I guess, what? Ralph Bernushka was hosting, what quiz show was he on?
I
Price
don't
is Right?
know.
Something like that. Remember the kicker? He was a kicker with San Diego. Ended up being a quiz show host. Urban Meyer, of course, could have added to any level of disgust you had about accepting the Gators as a viable team worthy of congratulations. So, yeah, I was full of shit, Lubie. I enjoyed every base hit. I think they banged out 25 hits, Louisiana State. Now, Louisiana State is certainly no prize, no pillar of integrity as an organization. Would you agree? I mean, what illegalities do you think that they have not been guilty of at one time or another?
I
Probably
just
none.
I thought last week both their basketball and football programs were put on probation. I saw that. Now I don't know
What
if
a
that's
surprise! Yeah,
but there was a big report about that. Yes.
unscrupulous. I mean, kind of like a couple of the salesmen we used to work with at WINZ back in the day. Unscrupulous is the only first word that comes to mind. You see this guy, hey Jeff, how you doing? Unscrupulous. You used to get all excited. You know, some salesman would call in, give us a pitch. Hey, I'm going to sell that shit out of your show. And I would just look at you, Luby, and go, he's unscrupulous. So, and anyway, that's how it ended up. And congratulations, dynamite team. I can't believe the depth of pitching they have on these college baseball teams, where they have like 12 guys that all bring the ball at 95 miles an hour. How is that possible? The Gator coach, who seemed to be a reasonably decent guy, what was his name? Sullivan? Is that the Gator baseball coach? You know nothing about this, huh?
Yeah, college baseball. I follow.
Usually you're a valuable asset to me when I start blanking on names, but not anymore, Olivia. You're kind of my memory bank. I want to say it was Sullivan. I don't know if it's Sully Sullivan, and I might be wrong about that. But he seemed to handle it all pretty well. He did the
Kevin
in-game interview.
O'Sullivan. Kevin O'Sullivan.
Oh, Sullivan. Okay, it's an Irishman coaching them Gators. Uh, but it was delightful. I have to admit. So I'm full of crap. I haven't softened my stance on the Gators. I root for them to lose at everything. I don't care if they're playing for the National Badminton Championship on the women's side. I'm going for the other team. Doesn't matter who they are. I'm all in. It doesn't have to be the University of Miami. Gators lose. I'm happy. I couldn't have been any more delighted than I was with the final result there. College Baseball World Series. Not an easy championship to win, Luby. I don't know that it's a Stanley Cup, but the LSU team, they can't to come through the losers bracket. I think they lost their first game. Did they lose their first game to Tennessee? Is that how they ended up in the losers bracket?
Yes.
And it fucks with your pitching rotation. It just does. They couldn't play this guy Skeens. The Gators had their stud out there, Cangialone or something like that. Cangialone, and this guy's a two-way player. He's like the Italian Shohei Ohtani. Had 33 home runs and also was a top pitcher. I think he was their best guy. He got shelled in the second inning. He had nothing. Looked like he was trying too hard. I mean, you ever see a guy and you're just looking and going, this guy's pressing? Pressing, my friend. He was pressing. All right, there's good news on your Damian Lillard front. I don't know if you caught this, Louis, and I don't. Maybe this is old news. It's possible since it's in my New York Post, which is yesterday's news tomorrow. When it comes to the early Bulldog edition that I get here in South Florida, and they're talking about how Damian Lillard, who had a meeting yesterday with his agent, I believe, with the brass from the
Yes.
Portland Trailblazers. Now, the Trailblazers drafted Scoot Henderson, and you're thinking, okay, just what they needed, another point guard. They
Another very
failed.
young point guard. He's 19. He's like 18, 19. Very young.
Yeah, I mean, it made sense to grab the guy because at the very least, if you couldn't orchestrate some kind of a trade before the draft, maybe, you have a highly tradable commodity after the draft, and that might be an asset to him. They supposedly the gist of what people thought the conversation was going to be was that the Trailblazer brass was going to try and convince Damian Lillard that they were fully committed to building a team around him. Now, in light of that, this news surfaces that, and here it is. I'll show you the headline if you can see it there, people. Can you see that? Am I holding it up right? South Beach for Lillard? Question mark.
Oh, no.
South Beach for Lillard.
The Blazers want their cake and eat it too. They don't want to commit to any specific moves, and they don't want to commit to rebuilding. The meeting did nothing. It was useless. And if I'm the Heat, I'm moving on. Like, I'm not wasting my time with this. Lillard wants to be there, and he's allowed to be there. And Lillard is falling for all of their garbage. They're gonna waste 2 years of his life.
So you think this article has no merit? That was
Well, everything
premature
I've read is
evaluation?
that they left the meeting saying that they're committed to him. I
Okay.
don't know, what does that mean. It's nothing new. I'm not saying it's anything new. What I'm saying is the Blazers aren't trading him,
All right.
and he's not. If he says I want to trade, they'll trade him right away. Like the minute he says I want to trade, they know they need to rebuild. They know they should rebuild. But they're not going to. It's everyone we've talked to, Devin E. and Howard Beck, and they've all said the same thing, that yes, the best thing for both parties is him being traded. The Blazers are too young to win now. They're not going to win now. They're just not. Like, look at the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies had a really young team that looked like they were winning now, and both years they lost early in the playoffs. Like, and we know this. And this is one script that has not changed. Young teams do not win in the NBA. They don't. It takes at least 2 to 3 runs. Even that Thunder team who made it to the finals and looked like a dynasty after game 1 got annihilated by a veteran Heat team. It just,
Yeah.
you're too young. The guys are bigger. They're stronger. They know the lay of the land. They know how to work the refs. It's just how it is. Like, you're not going to win in the NBA young. It's just, if you don't want to call it a fact, it's a very strong, pretty proven thing.
Usually it's a burial. I mean, you look at some of the supposedly good young teams. Look at Detroit. They have a lot of young players,
Yeah.
supposedly
They're more
talented, high draft picks, top 5 draft picks last several years. They were the worst team in the league.
Look,
Unbelievable.
they don't have a
Or
Lillard.
close to it.
Throw in the one veteran. Yeah, they're not going to be a lottery team. They can flirt with the play-in or a 7-8 seed. But if you're Damian Lillard, why would you want that? So that it's bad for both sides, because the haul you could get for Lillard would be surrounded around a young star and picks. So you could become a monster in the next 2 to 3 years. But you're not going to win now. It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't look like they're doing much but treading water there with this guy. And, if they have so much respect for him, maybe they should respect his wishes to go and have a chance to actually be with a winning team. You know what? I'm deflated now, Lubie, with your
Yeah, I'm not trying
basketball
to face it.
acumen and expertise, because I got off the toilet after reading this story, stepped into the shower, and I started thinking about it as I was, washing my hair, and I thought, wow, I mean, what a nice core that would be, huh? If you had Damian Lillard as the complimentary player, and maybe even the focal point with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, you could then get by very easily. I mean, incrementally, the value of your so-called lesser undrafted, unknown commodities there that did so well for the Miami Heat the last several years now. I mean, you're going to lose somebody, right? You're going to lose probably Tyler Hero, certainly as part of that deal, and maybe another one of these guys, right? Like Gabe Vincent or one of the other young players. They would probably like to unload Duncan Robinson, even though he was a contributor in the postseason. Probably not worth the money they doled out to him to have a guy like that. They could have drafted Grady Dick, and they would have had Duncan Robinson, the Dick. But nonetheless, yeah, I got all excited. I was thinking, geez, I'm like Lubie now. I'm thinking NBA offseason. That would be a really nice core, because now you go 3 deep, and whoever's left among the Caleb Martins and the Gabe Vincents of the world incrementally probably ratchets up their ability, because now they're the 4th and 5th consideration, and not even somebody that team would necessarily be paying heavy attention to. There's too much else out there to concern yourself with. But okay, so you say it's not happening, so
Well,
we can drop
I'm
it.
not saying it's not, just nothing changed. Like, the only thing that meeting was going to do for me was I wanted them to leave with Dame asking for a trade. You bring your agent there to ask for a trade. He did not. No, there's no report that says he asked for a trade. Okay. So the Blazers have already said, look, we're committed to winning with Dame. We think we have a young core that can win now. Okay, good luck. Ask the Timberwolves how that works with Jimmy Butler, who's actually.
Well, I mean, they had C.J. McCollum on that same roster. They couldn't win with those two guys together.
No.
It's just pretty incredible. All right, and the Marlins are in Boston tonight. Acid test, litmus test for the Marlins. I mean, this week is as they throw Sandy Alcantara out there. I was trying to figure out if anybody had tried to explore what is wrong with Sandy Alcantara this year. The article that I actually was able to dig up online about that was written by a very young woman who also was doing this article after only 6 Alcantara starts. So I'm not sure it's all still applicable. The bottom line, her conclusion was that his changeup sucks this year. Is it that simple, Lubie?
I
His
don't know.
changeup sucks. I'm looking at the numerology, and if you compare it, last year he went 14-9. We know he had no run support. Could have easily won 20 games.
Yep, yeah,
A
for sure.
2.28 earned run average. He pitched 228 innings and struck out 207 batters, walked
Look at
50.
his strikeouts. Like, that's the thing. So that's the changeup thing. Actually, makes a lot of sense. They're hitting him a lot more than they were hitting him last year. Like, they're seeing his pitches in a way
Yeah.
they've never seen his pitches.
I mean, essentially halfway through the season, he's 2-6, 5.08 earned run average, 95 innings pitched, and has struck out 78 in 95
Strikeouts
innings,
are
as
way
opposed
down,
to 207 and 228.
way down.
Okay, so the ratio is not good there. I mean, he's off by a few strikeouts, and he's walked a couple of more batters. If you were going to do the math, the correlation there, a little extrapolation, and the next thing you know, it's like, hey, he's walking everybody. But we're hoping he walks out there tonight and has a stellar start because you would love to see this be for real. This will be the week we find out if the Marlins are for real. The Braves, by the way, still continue to add distance between themselves and the Marlins in the standings with a 4-1 victory last night. They get a couple of home runs. Ozuna, I was texting back and forth with the great Jim Sarney, and he was telling me, I mean, as much as I was delighting in watching the Gators get pounded like that, he said, "Hey, well, the Braves are playing," and I thought, okay, I'll tune in to that game, tune into that game, and let me get a little bit of a grip on what these Braves are doing. All right, so I tune in for the inning where Ozuna hits a home run, and I was thinking I should just bet that Ozuna is going to hit a home run right now.
Yeah,
He was 0 for 2, and I'm an Ozuna fan. I mean, he has been inconsistent in terms of his batting average. Obviously, is a decent power hitter, but he smashes one in the right center field for a homer, and then Acuna comes up later, hits a 2-run homer, and the Braves made it stand up. So they add distance between themselves and the Marlins. Now 6.5 up in the National League East. How pathetic, too. I mean, there are any number of autopsies and obituaries being written about the New York Mets. The worst team, honestly. I mean, could you buy a worse team for that kind of money? Biggest payroll in baseball.
he's tried. Look, Cohen's done the opposite. He's tried. It's just all freaking failed.
Amazing, too. And people put their faith in things that you're thinking are extremely suspect, are they not? Max Scherzer was showing signs that he was not going to be at the same level consistently that he'd been throughout his career. And Verlander, I mean, he won the Cy Young last year, but he's 40 years old.
Yeah, he's had health issues for the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah. Unbelievable. All right. We pretty much have exhausted our time here, as they say. As the band would say, that's all we have time for. Thanks for coming out tonight. And please drive home safely. Make sure you take care of your servers and bartenders because they all did a wonderful job. And we'll see you next time we're in town as we wrap up another edition of Defo on 5.